A man settling his grandmother's estate found a dark, heavy old ring in a drawer, black enamel worn at the edges, a strange inscription inside, and decided it was a gloomy antique nobody would want. He sold it with a box of costume jewelry for $20. That ring was a Georgian mourning ring, and comparable pieces with intact enamel and a dated inscription sell for hundreds to several $1,000s, the rarest, far more, and the family never knew. That's not a coincidence. The ring was always valuable. The value was lost the moment it passed from someone who didn't know what they held to someone who did. And that gap is where almost all the money in the antique ring world lives. Here's the part nobody tells you about rings. The ugly ones are often the valuable ones, because dark, heavy, strange design signals a rare early era and real craftsmanship, while the shiny modern solitaire everyone admires is worth its scrap and little more. To you, an old ring looks worn, dated, or morbid. To a collector, it's a hallmark, a diamond cut, a period. Details deciding whether you hold a $20 cast-off or a small fortune. The real question isn't whether they're worth money, it's why the valuable ones stay so cheap and who benefits. The answer, knowledge here, sits in very few hands. It's rarely volunteered, and a resale economy runs on it. So here are 10 ugly rings people own without knowing it. One warning first, and it matters more than anything else. Do not clean it, polish it, or resize it, and above all, do not replace a chipped old stone with a bright modern one, because on antique rings, the highest value condition is as found, and a single replacement stone or heavy polish can destroy that premium in an afternoon. The first is the Georgian mourning ring, made before roughly 1837. The dark band of black or white enamel with an urn, a name, a date, sometimes a tiny woven lock of hair sealed under crystal. To modern eyes, it looks morbid and unwearable, which is exactly why families discard it. But Georgian rings are genuinely scarce, since jewelers routinely melted old pieces to make new ones, and a mourning ring with clean enamel, a legible inscription, and old-cut stones climbs from a few hundred into the thousands. Flip it over, read the inscription inside the band, and leave it as it is. The next one looks even plainer, and people write it off as a man's old signet. The second is the antique signet ring, the heavy gold band with a flat top carved with initials, a crest, or a symbol, once used to press a wax seal. People assume worn initials make it worthless junk. The opposite is true. A Victorian or earlier signet in solid 14K or 18K gold, especially one with a finely cut intaglio in carnelian, bloodstone, or lapis, is a serious collector piece. The value is in the carving, the gold, and any hallmarks inside the band. The seller sees someone else's old initials. The buyer reads the hallmark and the hand-cut intaglio, knows it's a genuine period signet, and pays without negotiating. If that surprised you, the next is where the diamond money hides in plain sight. The third is the old-cut diamond ring, the Victorian or Edwardian piece, whose central stone looks dull and lifeless next to a modern brilliant. That flaw is the whole point. Old mine and old European cuts were hand-cut before modern machinery, with smaller tables, heavier crowns, and deeper proportions that throw warm flashes of fire rather than white sparkle. A modern lab grades them fair or poor, yet collectors specifically hunt those stones, so the ring that looks less sparkly than a mall solitaire can be worth many times more. Don't judge the diamond by modern sparkle. That warmth is the antique cut collectors pay for. Now the list shifts to the pieces where a symbol or a single detail changes everything. The fourth is the Victorian serpent ring, popularized after Prince Albert gave Queen Victoria a snake engagement ring. the coiled gold band with gemstone eyes that looks creepy today. That strangeness is exactly the appeal, because genuine Victorian serpent rings with detailed scalework in 14K or 18K gold and gemstone eyes climb into the thousands. The Victorian cluster ring follows the same logic, running from $1,000 past $10,000, one emerald and rose-cut example, over $11,000. The fifth lesson is the one that costs people the most without them realizing it, and it's about the hallmark and the metal. On any old ring, the most valuable 30 seconds you'll spend is turning the band to the light to read the stamps inside. A hallmark, a maker's mark, a 925, 14K, 18K, 750, or plat can date the ring, name the maker, and prove the metal, multiplying the value several times over, yet countless gold and platinum rings get sold as scrap because nobody read the band. British hallmarks are especially powerful. A hallmarked Victorian ring with clear date letters and a known maker is worth far more than its gold and stones. People assume an old ring is base metal, price it as scrap, and hand a hallmarked original to a buyer who read the band in 2 seconds and said nothing. The mark is evidence, so turn the band to the light and read every stamp, because the difference between scrap and hallmarked and original is often the difference between $20 and thousands. The sixth takes that overlooked value danger to its most expensive extreme, and it's the ring hiding inside the pile that's worth more than the entire pile. The Art Deco platinum ring from the 20s and 30s often doesn't shout its worth. Geometric, sometimes small, with a milky old-cut diamond and calibre-cut stones that look like paste. But the Art Deco era is one of the most sought-after in the market, and a genuine platinum piece with original old-cut stones can be worth many multiples of a heavier modern ring. And because platinum hallmarking wasn't compulsory in Britain until 1975, a real deco piece may carry no obvious mark, which is how it gets dismissed. These get called an old dinner ring and let go in a bulk lot where a dealer offers one round number for all the old rings, and the deco piece gets absorbed into the pile. This is where the most people lose the most money, not because the ring looked like junk, but because it was disguised inside a fast transaction designed to prevent itemization. Grief and exhaustion are the picker's best friends. So the rule, plainly, never sell rings in a bulk lot. Never accept one price for all of them. Photograph every ring, read every band, and research each one separately, because the entire value of a jewelry box can sit in one ring nobody recognized. The seventh is the ring where value comes not from the stones, but from provenance and the story etched into it. A ring tied to a documented person, a shipwreck, a coat of arms, or a famous event carries a multiplier the anonymous ring does not. One mourning ring sold for nearly $28,000 because its inscription and imperial crest tied it to real history. Another commemorated a man who drowned in an 1832 shipwreck, the inscription turning a small gold band into a documented artifact. That engraving inside the band, the date, the name, the crest, is the ring's identity, and often its greatest value. So keep any inscription, fitted box, or paperwork together, and never buff the engraving out to make the ring prettier, because the story is the fortune. We've covered eras, cuts, hallmarks, and provenance, and the last three pull all of it together, starting with the ring, whose value lives in a detail you'd need to know to even check. The eighth is the original condition premium, the reason two identical-looking rings sell for wildly different sums. In the antique trade, as found, original and unaltered always beats restored. All original stones intact is the single largest condition premium. A Victorian ring, where one old mine cut has been swapped for a modern brilliant, loses both coherence and value. Legible hallmarks, an unthinned band, no crude repairs, and minimal resizing push the price up, while a heavy polish, a replaced stone, or a worn-off mark push it down. So when you research, do not look at active listings, the rings for sale, with hopeful asking prices, because anyone can ask any number, and those are fiction. Look at sold listings, what rings actually changed hands for, and match the era, cut, metal, and condition. Active listings tell you what sellers wish. Sold listings tell you the truth. The ninth is the stone that got faked, mined out, or reformulated. The "it used to be real" story that runs through this whole market. Natural rubies, sapphires, and emeralds from historic sources like Burma and Kashmir, before modern mining and lab-grown stones, can carry values exceeding the ring's gold and craftsmanship combined. And an old ring, quietly holding a natural, untreated gem, is a fortune only testing reveals. The lesson is that you cannot judge an ugly old ring by whether the stone looks impressive, because the modern lab-grown or treated version often looks brighter, while the priceless natural stone looks old and imperfect. You judge it by testing, by the hallmarks, and by the cut, the things the people who know read fluently while everyone else guesses. The 10th is the Grail, the ring where every principle compounds at once, and the ceiling climbs out of sight, the most extreme version of the central truth, that the value was lost the moment it passed from someone who knew to someone who didn't. At the very top sit the rings that don't look like much, a signed piece from a great house, Cartier, Van Cleef, and Arpels, Tiffany, whose tiny signature turns a nice ring into an extraordinary one, an ancient or medieval ring, a posy ring inscribed in Middle English, a Tudor signet, a Renaissance memento mori that a normal person would never dream is a museum-grade survivor. Every lesson converges here: as found condition, the hallmark and maker, the era and cut, the provenance and inscription, the warning never to clean, polish, resize, or reset, and the venue, because where you sell matters as much as what you sell. A rare antique ring sold to a pawn shop, a scrap gold buyer, or a bulk estate dealer is sold to whoever walks by, while the person who will recognize and pay for it is a specialist antique jewelry dealer or an auction house that knows the periods and makers cold. So here's the checklist that flips you from the person being collected from to the person who knows. Don't clean it, polish it, resize it, or replace a single stone, and leave every honest mark where it is. Turn the band to the light and read every hallmark and inscription, because the look of the ring is only the beginning, and the stamps inside are the truth. Keep the box, papers, and inscription together. Never sell in a bulk lot. Research each ring on sold listings, not active ones. And when you've found something real, take it to a specialist, not a passerby. If you recognized even one of these, hit the like button and comment below if you've got an old ring you can't identify, especially the dark or ugly ones, and I'd be happy to take a look. Subscribe if you want the part of the market the resellers already know and won't share. Because the truth under all 10 is simple. These rings were never worthless. They were built to look like the ones people throw away. And the only thing standing between you and what they're really worth is knowing. That's not a coincidence either.